He didn't know how to skate, but he couldn't look away from the girl who knew how to rise after every fall. A professional figure skater and a simple country boy. Ice where they met, a farm where they learned to love, and a family born from silence, hard work, and real warmth. This is a story about love without rushing, about hands that hold, about a home chosen by the heart.
Love Stories Max. Welcome to my channel. Enjoy watching, friends.
Where the ice melts. I remember that evening so clearly. The ice rink was breathing cold and light. The lamps reflected on the smooth surface like tiny stars, and the air smelled of frost and freshness. For me, it was a familiar place. The ice was my home. I skated professionally, my movements polished by years of practice, when the body remembers more than the mind. I was skating lap after lap, listening to the blades sing beneath my feet, thinking only about the music inside me. And then I felt it, a gaze. Not a quick, passing glance. A warm, attentive one. Slightly lost, I stopped near the boards and saw him. John was standing there in awkward skates, gripping the railing as if it were his only lifeline in an ocean of ice. He was looking at me with wide eyes, a mix of awe, admiration, and quiet fear. And in that very moment, he fell. Loudly, awkwardly, completely clumsy. I couldn't help it, I laughed. Honestly, openly, like a child. He got back up, blushing, smiled, took another step, and fell again. By then, I was laughing so hard tears came to my eyes. "I think I'm doing something wrong," he said as he finally made it to the boards beside me. There was no offense in his voice, only warm self-irony and courage, the courage to approach, even while falling. "I think you just chose the wrong element," I replied, reaching out my hand. His palm was warm, a little unsure, but it held on tightly. "John," he said. "Margaret." He admitted he couldn't take his eyes off me, that he had come just to watch, but something about me made him step onto the ice, even if the ice clearly wasn't on his side. I slowly guided him forward, hand in hand. Step by step, he trembled, slipped, laughed at himself, and I caught him every time he lost his balance. Our fingers intertwined more firmly with every attempt. "You know," I said after he almost fell again, "I've fallen too. So many times." He looked at me in disbelief. "You? But you fly." I smiled. I fell so often I almost stopped believing in myself. I fell in front of coaches, in front of people, in front of mirrors. But every time, I got back up and tried again. The ice taught me not to fear falling, only stopping. He nodded quietly. Then he took another step. On his own. Uneven, uncertain, but his. And he didn't fall. "See?" I whispered. "If I'm falling next to you," he said softly, "it's not so scary." That evening, we skated slowly. Very slowly. I forgot about speed and technique. We laughed, we slid across the ice, we held hands, and for the first time, I didn't want to be perfect. When we stepped off the ice, John took off his skates with such relief. as if he had survived a small adventure. He brought 2 hot cocos from the vending machine, too sweet, too hot, but the best I'd ever tasted. We sat side by side, shoulders touching, watching others glide across the ice. I didn't know then that it was the beginning. But I felt it. Sometimes the most important people enter our lives unsure, falling, laughing at themselves. And they stay, because they're not afraid to get back up one more time. And John? He never learned how to skate perfectly. But he taught me something far more important. Love doesn't require balance, only the courage to take a step towards someone. Our first date was just as quiet and genuine as John himself. He was waiting for me outside a small cafe near the ice rink. I recognized him instantly, not by his clothes or posture, but by the way he nervously held a bouquet in his hands. The flowers were simple, yet unbelievably beautiful: wild daisies, soft blue cornflowers, and a few sprigs of lavender. They smelled like summer, sunshine, and freedom. "I didn't know which flowers you like," he admitted softly. "So I chose the ones that grow near my home." I took the bouquet, and in that moment I knew I had never received more beautiful flowers in my life. John was nothing like the men I had known before. There were no loud promises or flashy confidence in him. He was simple, real, a country boy who had spent his whole life working, waking up with the roosters, using his hands until they were tired, building something of his own. He talked about his farm as if it were alive, about his goats, each with a name, a personality, and favorite treats. About mornings when the grass is still covered in dew and the air is so clean it makes you breathe more slowly. And then, the cheese. His voice grew softer, warmer, almost reverent when he spoke about the ancient recipe passed down through generations of his family. His great-grandfather, his grandfather, his father, and now him. Cheese made from patience, time, and love. No shortcuts, no lies. The best cheese in the world, and I believed him long before I tasted it. "I've always believed," he said, looking into his coffee cup, "that if you make something honestly, with your heart, it will find the people who need it." I watched his hands, strong, slightly rough, working hands. Those hands milked goats, made cheese, and now gently held mine, as if he was afraid to scare me away. That evening, he gave me a small wrapped bundle. Inside was a piece of his cheese, carefully folded in parchment and tied with twine. "This is, for you. A piece of my world." I understood then. It was more than a gift. It was trust. And I thought that maybe true love isn't about grand declarations. Maybe it's warm hands, wildflowers, and a man who spent his life learning how to create something real, and just as carefully, learning how to love. That Saturday morning, John invited me to his place. To the farm. I woke up earlier than usual, with a strange flutter in my chest, as if I wasn't going to see a place, but something deeply personal. When I arrived, the morning was just unfolding. Sunlight slid across the hills, and the air was filled with the scent of grass, milk, and quiet. John was waiting by a wooden fence. He wore a simple shirt, slightly faded by the sun, and that same warm smile, the kind that carries more calm than words. "Welcome home," he said, and I felt he didn't say those words often. He showed me the farm with such tenderness, as if he were introducing me to family. Every corner had its own story. Every board bore the mark of his hands. John was a professional not because he learned this from books, but because he lived it. The goats greeted us with soft bleating and curious eyes. They were all different, calm and playful, serious and carefree. John knew each one. He spoke to them gently, almost in a whisper. And they listened, truly listened. And then I saw the baby goats. Small, snow-white, with pink noses and eyes full of trust. They ran toward me, tangled around my legs, brushed my hands with their warm little faces. I laughed, openly, unguarded, the way I hadn't laughed in a long time. I sat down on the grass, and they immediately surrounded me. One climbed into my lap, another tugged at my shoelace, a third stubbornly tried to lick my finger. I stroked them, talked to them, and they answered with pure, unconditional joy. I looked up, and saw John. He stood a little apart, watching me as if the world had just settled into place. In his eyes was everything: pride, tenderness, peace, and a love he was no longer trying to hide. "They've accepted you," he said softly. "And I think I'll stay," I replied without thinking. Later, we drank warm milk on the porch. He spoke about his work, about responsibility, about loving the land, about how a true professional never rushes. I listened and realized, this man holds hearts just as carefully as he holds everything he touches. That morning, we fell completely in love, without grand words, between the laughter of baby goats, the warm sun, and a silence where loneliness no longer existed. Only a month had passed since that Saturday morning on the farm, yet it felt like we had known each other our entire lives. That evening, John invited me back again. The sun was sinking behind the hills, the sky soft and pink, the air calm, as if it knew something important was about to happen. He held my hand quietly, a little tighter than usual. Near an old tree he had planted as a boy, John stopped. His hands were trembling, those same strong hands that never feared work. "Margaret," he said softly, dropping to one knee, "I don't know how to live halfway. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to build a home, a family, a life. Will you marry me?" The ring was simple, honest, with a small light inside it, just like him. I said yes before my tears allowed me to say anything else. 3 months later, we were married. The wedding was warm and unpretentious. Wooden tables, wildflowers, laughter from friends, and the scent of fresh bread and cheese. John looked at me as if I were his home. And I looked at him knowing, this was forever. 2 months after that, I stood holding a small test in my hands, unable to believe my eyes. When I told him, John wrapped me in his arms, holding me as if he were afraid to let our happiness slip away. "I'll be here, always," he whispered, and he was. He woke up early to make me breakfast. He placed his hand on my belly and talked to our baby. He made sure I rested. He wrapped me in a blanket when I fell asleep on the couch. He carried me with his love, gently, carefully, without unnecessary words. And when the day came, he held my hand and never let go. With our baby's first cry, the world changed. We named her Maria. Small, warm, a true miracle. John cried when he held her for the first time. And I watched them both, knowing every fall in my life had been necessary to bring me here. To our daughter, to our love, to home. A year has passed. A year in which time learned to move differently, slower, warmer, like home. Our house wakes early. With the first light, the soft bleating of goats outside, and the gentle breathing of our daughter in her crib. John wakes up first, always. I hear his steps, still sleepy, yet steady. He quietly makes tea, checks the farm, and then returns to us, as if the whole world exists only up to that moment. He lifts Maria into his arms with such care, as if he's holding life itself. He speaks to her in whispers, smiles, shows her the world beyond the window. She reaches for him with her tiny fingers, and he catches them, and in that moment, I see true happiness. John cares for us the way only he knows how. Without grand gestures, in the small things, in the warm blanket placed over my shoulders, in the cup of milk left beside me, in the look that asks, "Are you okay?" In the evenings, we sit together on the porch. Maria falls asleep on his chest, and I lean against his shoulder. The farm breathes in peace, and even the stars seem closer. Sometimes I think back to that ice rink, the falls, the laughter, and I realize, everything led us here. To a home where love is a daily choice. To a man who holds the world in his hands. To our little family, where hearts beat in unison. And I know, even if we fall, we will always rise again. Together.